SOS HD1 East St. Louis 101 ESPN is driven by Brown and Krugman Law Firm. It's time for the First Community Credit Union Blues postgame show.
Presented by Scott Lee Heating Company and Urban Chestnut Brewing Company on 101 ESPN.
Tarasenko got it back along the wall, and it comes to Justin Falk. Tried to clear it out. Blocked away by Zuccarello. Zuccarello centers. They shoot. Hofer with a glove. Save! What a save, denying Tarasenko.
That was the biggest save of the hockey game. And, I mean, there were a couple of others that Hofer made in the first period, in the second period, one where he was falling into the back of the net and came up with the big saves, but none bigger than that one, because Vladimir Tarasenko in the slot with a game-tying goal on the line, and Joel Hofer, just ice in his veins, holds on to that victory. Welcome, everyone, into our extended post-game coverage. Your home of the Blues, 101 ESPN. It's the fourth period, so we're live up on our YouTube channel at 101 ESPN STL. Of course, you could join in on the Air Comfort Service text line as well, 314-399-9646. Jordan Deacon here, Alex Ferrario with you. We'll hear from Jim Montgomery coming up in just a couple of moments. We'll also have our soundbite of the night. That is Elliot Friedman in our next segment, talking about Robert Thomas and the potential of a trade for number 18, who came back and had a massive night tonight. And then we'll also have our final look. So we've got lots to get to. Let's jump right into it with our takeaways from this one.
It's time for tonight's three takeaways, presented by Ted Drew's Frozen Custard, a St. Louis tradition for over 95 years. Unmatched quality, unforgettable taste.
We got to start with Joel Hofer. That is the biggest takeaway in this one. You know, we've spent so much time this season talking about, the core that they might be shifting to. If it's a lost season, do you hand it over to a younger nucleus? And we talk about the forwards. We talk about the defensemen with guys like Broberg and whatnot. I don't think we talk enough about Joel Hofer. And look, I personally think Jordan Binnington is a hell of a goalie and the goalie that you want to win hockey games with. We don't know what the future is going to hold for Jordan Binnington, but it's very satisfying, and I can speak for Blues fans with this, knowing that you've got a goalie who can come up with big saves, and that's what Joel Hofer has done. I mean, Joel Hofer tonight was as locked in as we have seen him this season. And we've seen some really good games, but, you know, Minnesota is a team that's coming into this one fighting for a second-place spot in the Central Division with Dallas and Colorado. They didn't play last night, so they're rested. It's their first home game post-Olympics. They're honoring their Olympic heroes. You'd expect that team to come out and just fly around the Blues. And the Blues did a masterful job of really keeping things to the outside. But when the dam broke, Joel Hofer was right there. And, you know, earlier today, I was listening to a TNT broadcast because Tuukka Rask was on there, and he was talking about the goals saved above expected number and how that's a stat that he at least really enjoys as a goaltender, because it provides a little bit better of an idea of how they're performing other than save percentage. And Joel Hofer, if you break it down from December 1st on, he's a top 20 goalie in the National Hockey League in terms of guys who have started 20 or more games in terms of goals saved above expected. So I know that's a really specific number, but I'm just trying to paint the illusion of this is a guy that it's starting to feel more and more comfortable when he gets the bulk of the work moving forward. If they move on from Jordan Binnington, or if they don't re-sign him after next season and when he's a free agent, you'll have a 26-year-old goaltender who is starting to show that he could come up with big saves and big moments. And that was a really big game for Joel Hofer for the matchup against the Minnesota Wild. Second takeaway for me tonight was Robert Thomas. I don't know what's going to happen between now and Friday. Frankly, I don't know what's going to happen between now and next season, because things can happen in the offseason as well. Tonight was an example of what you lose if you trade away Robert Thomas. His first game back had 6 shot attempts, 2 takeaways, 1 blocked shot, 57% of the faceoff dot, was a +3 with 2 points playing 17 minutes. And that was also going up against one of the top two lines for the Minnesota Wild. I mean, everything he does when he's on his game dominates the game. Jacob said it on their breakdown, and I couldn't agree more. He drives the play. The goal that was scored by Logan Mailloux started in the defensive zone because of Robert Thomas. This faceoff that he won in the defensive zone that led to his empty net goal, he wins that faceoff. He is one of those players that is viewed as the go-to guy. They saw it in the Four Nations post-play last season, and you got it again tonight. Again, I don't know what the Blues' game plan is. I don't know what their decisions are. Again, you're going to hear Elliot Friedman's report coming up in a bit with our soundbite of the night of how, conversations are continuing to pick up surrounding Robert Thomas. If the Blues do that, they're setting themselves back a couple of years because you're moving on from a guy that can play and win now. And Robert Thomas showed it tonight, and I also think Pavel Buchnevich had a hell of a game. They juggled up the line combinations a little bit as this one went through, but Pavel Buchnevich has continued to flourish at that center position, which is going to provide the Blues a lot of ammo moving forward to have Pavel Buchnevich, who is producing right now. He's got 38 points in 60 games played, and a majority of those points have been picked up at the center position. And then the third takeaway is Logan Mailloux. I was telling Jordan this during the game. Logan Mailloux is going to continue to gain confidence, and by next season, he is going to be a hell of a hockey player. And that hell of a hockey player is going to be viewed as a top four defenseman who can generate offense. He's not going to be putting up Cale Makar numbers, but he's a guy that can give you 20 to 25 points, but also play good defensively. And that's what the Blues wanted when they traded Bolduc. I know people still are up in arms about it, but if you think about what they have on the wing position, Jimmy Snuggerud coming up with Justin Carbonneau, you've got Holloway, you've got Neighbors, you've got Stenberg. I think this is just my opinion, I think when they traded away Zach Bolduc, it was a big reason because, one, they were short on the right-handed defensive side, and two, they drafted Justin Carbonneau not expecting to draft Justin Carbonneau where they got him. And that led them to saying, okay, we've got a plethora of these guys. Let's go out there and acquire something we don't have. And, man, Logan Mailloux, that's 3 straight games he's played north of 19 minutes. That's 3 straight games he has gotten ample opportunities on the penalty kill. Tonight he actually didn't have to deal with any penalty kill time because that was Philip Broberg and Justin Falk playing 2 minutes and 47 seconds. That was the only defenseman that played on the penalty kill, but he has gotten penalty kill time. He has gotten higher leverage 5-on-5 time, and now you're talking about a guy who didn't pick up a point the other night against the Devils, but probably should. Or I'm sorry, not against the Devils. The Seattle Kraken didn't get a point on it, should have, as he created that Dylan Holloway second goal of the game, played over 20 minutes last night and was a plus on the ice, and tonight played over 20 minutes, was a +2, and picked up a goal. So the comfort and the confidence that Logan Mailloux is picking up right now continues to flourish. Jimmy Snuggerud as well had a really good game, picking up an assist. So these are the rewards, these are the benefits you want in a rough season that the Blues are going through. So that's my Ted Drew's 3 takeaways. As always, we want yours. You could send them over on our YouTube channel, 101 ESPN STL, or you could text them to me, 314-399-9646. We'll have our soundbite of the night coming up in a bit, and I want to address a couple of things that I've seen already come over on the YouTube chat. But now, let's get Jim Montgomery's thoughts on the victory tonight out in Minnesota.
It's time to hear from the head coach, Jim Montgomery, presented by Fisher Window and Door Store, offering quality American-made Marvin windows and doors. Visit their showrooms in Brentwood or East Alton, Illinois.
Really good. It was surprising how well he handled the puck. I know he has great hands and all that, but the timing usually, when you get back into games, everything's a half a second quicker than even practice, and he hasn't had a lot of practice time. So to see the plays he made through the neutral zone, the offensive zone, and coming out of our D zone and the finishing plays that it led to our victory was it's nice to have him back.
He's also a big face-off guy, obviously. How does that impact the team getting those face-off wins?
Well, he gives us tonight, like we had 3 righty centers with Sundqvist playing that can play right, take draws on the right, and we had 3 guys that can do it on the left. So every situation, depending on end of a period or D-zone face-offs, O-zone face-offs, I can have a lefty and righty out there. So it really helps that way because he gives you a lot more balance.
And thoughts on Joel tonight? He obviously had a great game.
Well, Hofer was outstanding. He's just, continuing what he's been doing since November started.
Pavel gets the game winner, but what a pass by Snuggerud. Just a real heads-up play there.
Yeah, talk about a young man really coming into his own in this league. Snuggerud's doing that. Like, to see him playing with Thomas, where if this was October, he'll be trying to force pucks to Thomas. Now he's playing with Thomas. And what I mean by that is if it's his time to carry the puck or shoot the puck, he's doing that. He's not forcing it to a veteran.
Nice to get a win on the road for first time in a while.
Yeah, you know what? I hadn't thought about that. But, what I really liked was how poised and calm we were. The bench and the way we managed the game through the 3 periods. Because second period wasn't by any means a real good period by us. We had turnovers, but we protected the middle of the ice and we let our goaltender see pucks.
What do you think the biggest difference was between last night's game and tonight's game for you guys?
Win battles. I mean, that's the biggest thing for our team. And it's not just winning a one-on-one battle. It's the competitive fire to be first on the puck. And then it's having second quick, which means if you and I are fighting for a puck, that he's going to come in before their second guy comes in so we can possess, get out of our D zone or stay in the offensive zone.
It was very noticeable. It was without question noticeable how they won puck battles tonight versus they didn't against the Devils. And look, some of this was the Devils that adapted and played that style that didn't allow the Blues to play transition hockey, but the Blues didn't have to play transition hockey tonight. They scored their goals that way in terms of the Logan Mayhew one, but the Pavel Buchnevich goal was solely off of winning a board battle in the offensive zone and then going in and using that elite shot that he has to score it and get past Gustafsson. So a big win for the Blues as they take down the Minnesota Wild. And I say big win, and I think some fans get frustrated with that because as I've already gotten a couple of messages saying the Blues are going to screw this up, Alex. I want to address that. We'll have our soundbite of the night on the other side, and we'll have our final look. All coming up next on the extended post-game coverage, 4th period on your home for the Blues, 101 ESPN. Alex Ferrario back with you to tell you about my friends out at First Community Credit Union who want to remind everyone listening that getting your family's finances in order isn't just for the adults. It's also about teaching your kids good habits early on. First Community is offering the Rising Stars program that's designed to help kids 12 and under learn to save, earn, and grow with exciting incentives made just for them. Specifically, something like earning $1 for every A that they receive on their report card. From opening their first account to watching their savings grow, your kids are going to be building smart money habits for life. Plus, as a parent, you can manage your whole family's finances all in one place while saving more with very competitive rates on checking and savings accounts. So visit one of First Community's branch locations to learn more about their Rising Stars program and start establishing your family's financial foundation today. You must qualify for membership. $1 share deposit is required. First Community Credit Union for all of your savings and all of your loans.
to the First Community Credit Union Blues postgame show.
Presented by Scott Lee Heating Company and Urban Chestnut Brewing Company on 101 ESPN.
Final time tonight here on our extended post-game coverage, the fourth period on your home for the Blues 101 ESPN. 3-1 victory as the Blues take down the Minnesota Wild tonight. I've already gotten a couple of messages, one from Josh, one from Scott, which I do appreciate all of the messages and questions on our post-game show, but both saying this is bad, Alex. They're going to screw up the chance to select 1 or 2 overall by selecting 8, 9, or 10. I understand that frustration. For a bad season, you want them to get the best pick available. My first reaction to that is, let's calm down a little bit. It's one game. It's 2 wins in their last 3, yes. But we also can't overlook the difficulty of their schedule the rest of the way. Now, look, this team could figure it out and play well, and I think that would bum a lot of Blues fans out. But in terms of strength of schedule, the Blues have the 20th toughest schedule in the National Hockey League the rest of the way. Now, you might say, yeah, that's exactly what's concerning. The teams that are in front of them, or I guess, yeah, in front of them in the standings that fans are worried they catch, Chicago, who's got the 8th hardest schedule the rest of the way. The Rangers, the Blackhawks have the 8th easiest schedule the rest of the way. The Rangers have the 5th easiest schedule the rest of the way. San Jose, who's kind of right around where the Blues are at, 3rd easiest schedule the rest of the way. And the Kings, if they fall out of it, the easiest schedule the rest of the way. The only teams that have the harder schedule than the Blues that you'd be worried could catch them: Calgary, who's got the 2nd toughest schedule the rest of the season. Ottawa, if they really fall out of it, who's got the 13th hardest schedule the rest of the way. And then Vancouver, who I think we're all on board with, they're going to be at the bottom no matter what. Winnipeg is right there with the Blues, and they're a few points ahead of them. So, yeah, there's concern, I guess, that you screw up selecting 1st or 2nd overall. Here's the other thing to remember. You could finish with the 2nd worst record and nobody being close to you, and you could still draft 3rd, 4th, or 5th overall, because teams can move up the draft by 10. You could be sitting at 2, and the 12th best team moves up to 2, and you drop down to 3rd. So there's no guarantee. It's why there's a lottery. Now, in my opinion, the lottery's rigged. I'll save that for another conversation, but it's why there's a lottery. So teams don't try and tank to get a bad pick. If you're selecting in the top 5, you're getting an incredible player. The other factor into all of this is the potential of a trade deadline move. And we don't know what Doug Armstrong is going to do. We could see this team be dismantled by Friday. You could see a Kyrou traded, a Falk traded, a Shen traded, a Binnington, a Thomas. Like, any of these pieces could be gone. What are they getting in return? What does the team look like when those pieces are moved on from? Those are things that you have to ask yourself. So, in my opinion, it's never a bad thing to win hockey games. What would be worse for this Blues team is if they lost the next 22 games and went into the offseason on a 22-game losing streak. That's how you develop losing mentality. That's how you, as Joe Vitale has put it so eloquently, that's how you bring the stench of losing into your locker room. And you don't get that stink out. So it's good for them to win games like this. Yeah, you want them to pick 2nd overall. I think all of us would love to see an Ivar Stenberg or a Gavin McKenna in St. Louis. Let's let the season play itself out, because if they select 5th, 6th, 7th overall, to me, that means that you won games and you've gained more confidence from certain players like Dvorsky and Snuggerud and Holloway and Neighbors and Broberg and Hofer that is going to pay off in future years rather than losing and being at the bottom. Plus, I do think they're going to be floating around those bottom 5 spots, because everyone else ahead of them, Winnipeg, Chicago, I think Winnipeg's still in the mindset of trying to make a push for the playoffs. Lofty expectations considering they're 10 points behind Utah, but I don't think they have pieces to sell off. They're going to be competitive. New Jersey, I don't know what they're going to do. The Kings, they're buying. Nashville, not selling. San Jose, not selling. Toronto, maybe selling, but not going to sell any of those big pieces off. So all of those teams are going to stay about as competitive as they've been, and they're floating around a plus 500 record. The teams that are right around you, Chicago, who won tonight, by the way, with a shutout over Utah, Calgary, New York, Vancouver. I think Vancouver's going to be there. I think New York, Calgary, Chicago, St. Louis are jockeying for those bottom 5 spots. Teams are going to win games they're not supposed to. Teams are going to lose games they're not supposed to. It's how it's going to go down the rest of the way. Speaking of that trade deadline, our soundbite of the night tonight is a rumor that has really perked the ears up of Blues fans around the National Hockey League over the last 24 hours. Our soundbite of the night, Elliot Friedman from last night's Hockey Night in Canada.
The soundbite of the night is presented by Rocket Convenience Stores. Fuel your car and your daily cravings at Rocket Convenience Stores.
You know, Ron, when his name first came up, you report it, but you kind of don't believe it. Like, there's no way Robert Thomas is getting traded. I actually believe it could happen. I think there is a decent chance that Robert Thomas could be traded by the deadline on Friday. I believe one of the teams that's in this is Utah. Bill Armstrong, the GM of Utah, drafted Robert Thomas in St. Louis, and that's a connection there. But I think it actually could potentially happen, and I have to say I'm a bit surprised about that. I think it's heated up around him a bit.
It's time to take a look back at tonight's game with the final look.
Driven by Pure Performance. Only stop for all your aftermarket vehicle needs.
So I'll take that and kind of jump into our final look with this one. Not so much on the trade side of things, because I don't know what this is going to look like. You hear things. I'm assuming Doug Armstrong is not going to be swayed by 2 wins in their last 3 games of changing the direction of the team. I think the big picture is the concern for Doug Armstrong and Alex Steen. And as I heard Darren Dreger say on Barn Burner, I think the Blues are focused on cleaning up what he labeled the mess. That's a quote from Darren Dreger of the Blues over the last few seasons before Alex Steen takes over. So I don't know what's going to look like. But tonight was just another example, like we talked about on Thursday when they beat the Seattle Kraken, of things you look forward to. Logan Mailloux is really starting to come into his own as a top 4 defenseman, and he's 22 years old. Jimmy Snuggerud continues to showcase why he was such a highly touted prospect. And then you had Joel Hofer go out there and perform. And you've got the polarizing players in terms of Robert Thomas and Pavel Buchnevich. Robert Thomas was a difference maker in this game tonight, not only offensively, but defensively as well, as he was a +3 playing 17 minutes. Meanwhile, Kirill Kaprizov was a -1. Quinn Hughes was a -2. Matt Zuccarello, Ryan Hartman, all -1s. Trainin -2. Brock Faber, a -1. These are the types of games that players understand they can win. And you hope they build confidence from this one. And tonight, it really felt like you saw the style of hockey that Jim Montgomery has been wanting to see from the Blues. So I know people are probably frustrated about it. I know you're wanting this team to be bad so they can get a top 3 pick, top 2 pick. Let that play itself out. Right now, what I'd be concerned about as a Blues fan is getting play that you're starting to see of players step forward. And I think you're starting to see that more and more as the final 22 games continue on Wednesday. And that's what's next for the Blues. They'll take on the Seattle Kraken in Seattle. They'll come home for a day, and then they'll fly out to the West Coast, take on the Kraken Wednesday night, a 9 o'clock puck drop with a 8 o'clock First Community Credit Union pregame show right here on your home for the Blues, 101 ESPN. But it should be an exciting week with all of the noise around this Blues team, and we will have you posted of everything over on BK and Ferrario. Really throughout the day on all of our shows, TMA, BK and Ferrario Fastlane, and of course all of our social media platforms at 101 ESPN. So if you're not following, make sure you are. Make sure you subscribe to YouTube and our social media platforms so that you are updated on the alerts. Also, make sure you log into the 101 ESPN app and sign up for that, because you'll get updates when things happen and notifications over this next week. So we'll have you covered there. We also have a couple of fun interviews for you tomorrow on BK and Ferrario. We're going to be chatting with Jay McKee, former Blues defenseman who is the head coach of Adam Yurichek's team, the Brantford Bulldogs in the Ontario Hockey League. So we'll be able to get a little perspective on Adam Yurichek tomorrow. He's going to join us at 1 o'clock. And then we're also going to talk it over with the Utah Mammoth beat writer, Cole Bagley, with all of the news of Utah being potentially the team that is trying to trade for Robert Thomas. We'll get a little perspective from the Utah side of things. So make sure you tune in tomorrow from 11 to 2. Huge shout out to our Jordan Deacon, doing great work as always here in our network studios. I'm Alex Ferrario. Hope everyone has a great rest of your night, great rest of the weekend. We'll talk to you tomorrow at 11 a.m. for BK and Ferrario, right here on your home for the Blues, 101 ESPN.
Thanks for listening to the First Community Credit Union Blues postgame show.
Presented by Scott Lee Heating.